Orville Peck, or as I like to say, the country Mac Homie. Two artists in the world of music who are in their own genres, in their own lanes, a mysterious, weird cult-like character that people want to learn more about, but they're too set in their ways, and they want to be masked in a really cool look, but also make music that people really like. Orville Peck burst onto the scene with Pony a few years back, an album I didn't really like and didn't really get into at all, and was definitely in the minority with not liking it, because I know a lot of people seem to praise that album quite nicely. Thought it was one of the better country albums of that year. I personally did not agree with that, and I thought at times it was pretty dull and felt quite standard for what it was going for. So going into the new one, Bronco, I certainly didn't have particularly high expectations. However, in one of the biggest surprises of the year for me, as there always are plenty of surprises in the world of music every year on this channel, I have multiple albums that I'm like, I didn't expect much, but I really liked it actually. We have another case of that. Orville Peck's Bronco, I think, is pretty great. Immediately for me, what I picked up on was how much character there was to his voice on the opening track. I remember not really being that attached to his vocals, but this time around, I was like, oh, okay, there's a bit of like an outlaw country feel really coming through. And he was on this album particularly, he's sounding a bit more like a vigilante sort of character. There's that kind of like that menace to his tone. Everything's really dramatic and over the top, and I'm really liking it. I don't know if that's the character he's wanting to portray, but I quite like the idea in my mind of viewing him as like a vigilante in the world of country music. It fits his image really well. Like, it fits the image really well with the mask and everything, and like covering his face, the look, the colors he wears. There's that vibe to him in terms of his personality and his image, but also it's coming through on the vocals as well, which I really like, and even in some of the instrumentation. Case of the Blackened takes things a little bit in a different direction, but one of the things that this album does well is how much it packs in the 15 tracks, the 55-minute runtime. There's so many different like varieties of styles within the country genre, the umbrella, and he kind of like branches out and takes some of the tracks in different directions, and he pretty much nails almost every one of them, to be honest. But Curse of the Blackened I think has a bit more of a bluesy feel to it. It's very solemn with his vocals, particularly when he goes into the high notes with like the those parts of the track. Sounds like, you know, you're around a campfire and it's a very traditional song that's being sung by someone. The track Iris Rose has more added instrumentation, just brings a lot of flair to the song. The trumpets, everything else that's going on in this track just brings so much out of Orville Peck's voice. It just lifts everything. It's great. The burst of energy that comes through in the title track Bronco reminds me of some rocking Sturgill Simpson. We know how good Sturgill is at the rock stuff in the country lane, and here we have Orville Peck going head to head with Sturgill, being one of the better rock singers in the country world somehow, which I did not see coming at all. And then even as well, you get it back on any turn. So fired up and has so much energy oozing out of it. I love these moments on the album. I think he's nailing the rock sound so well, and they're just so catchy and engaging too. I like Lafayette as well, with the lyrics about cowboys still exist, they're still real to me, damn it, about him and Lafayette feeling like they're the only cowboys that exist in the world. I quite like Hexie Mountains as well, for how traditionally stereotypically country this one feels. I mean, the idea of him walking along the mountain ridge on his horse, staring into the distance, asking the mountain questions questions to see if they know the answer to the things he's asking. There's just something so stereotypically country about that man. All he needed to say was that he had a whiskey flask with him too, and oh my lord, you'd have the most country song of the bloody year. Kalahari Down, I think, is a highlight on the album too. Love the way he words himself across this album, particularly on this track as well, where he says, "What do I know? A bunch of sorrow." Just a really specifically worded thing. Sounds so Southern American by saying bunch of sorrow. I just got a whole bunch of sorrow. Of course, I know he's South African, but you know, I bet he's picked up on some of the really traditional sounding country phrases though throughout his time. But we haven't even got to the best track. The best track for me, Out of Time. Out of Time. Out of Time. God damn, God damn, God damn. The chorus on this one is so good. The powerful vocal delivery he brings on this track is so passionate. The guitar after the second chorus. Oh, it sounds so good. Oh my god, man. I was so shocked to hear this. When it first came on, I was taken aback. I was like, well, okay, Orville. You might have given us one of the best songs of the year. Okay. Let Me Drown as well. A fantastic track towards the end of the album that powerfully exuberates so much from Mr. Orville Peck. Oh my god, he sounds fantastic on this track. This one sounds like the potential hit of the album too. I mean, you've seen all the country piano-led ballads that make it into the US charts. I mean, some of them are really corny and cheesy. But if Mr. Orville Peck got a hit with this track, he would fully deserve it. Even with a few cliches being thrown in, like the pain is pleasure type stuff. There's a few in this track, to be fair. But nah, I think he sells it so much. I can let things like that slide when the performance is this good. The final track as well is a nicely worked duet. Again, feels a bit stereotypical in places with, you know, the male-female sing-along kind of vibe that it's got, very traditionally country, but you know what, again, doesn't edge on the cheesy side. I think it actually is a really nice track. What I only say is the worst track, to be honest, is Come On Baby Cry. I think that the cheese on this one goes really too far. The leading up to the chorus sounds like Amarillo, you know, the song, "Is This the Way to Amarillo?" Really not a fan of that. And did not want I didn't want this on an album that's so much energized with the rock stuff, so much outlaw country to his vocals, such an edge to the whole album, and then you've got this really cheesy, cringy track. I did check the credits, and to be fair, it has Tobias Gesso Jr. on it. That's a name you may not have heard in about 8 years, to be honest. But if you remember that guy and how plain and bland he was, yeah, you'd maybe understand why this track has ended up being the worst one, to be honest. But even still, a track that I don't like in an album full of 14 other songs that I think are really good, that's a good ratio, isn't it? That's a good ratio. I haven't talked about every track here, but let it be known that this, to me, might be up there with the best country album of the year by the end of the year. And this is an artist I didn't even like when he burst onto the scene. So definitely worth going back to his first album to see if my opinion has changed. But I will tell you right now, after multiple listens of this one, I think this album gets better with each listen, to be honest. I think it's great. And I think this could be an entry point for people that aren't really the biggest fans of country, because there's such a diverse style going across the whole thing. There's so many diverse styles, sorry, should I say. His voice, I think, is quite commanding and quite personality driven. He doesn't sound like, you know, your typical country singer at the moment in the charts. You know, he's no Walker Hayes. He's definitely no Walker Hayes. With the rock combinations as well, yeah, there's a lot to love here. I'm going to go 8 out of 10. I think this is great. One of my favourite albums of the year. Has some of my favourite tracks of the year too as well. That's it. That's the video. That's the review. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you as always. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a good day and goodbye.